Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the 5-Minute Leader. Today I want to talk about the difference between collaborative leadership versus consensus. I was actually giving a talk fairly recently at an organization, and somebody in the audience raised their hand and they asked me this question about collaboration and the role that plays in leadership. And if it's required for a leader to get everybody's opinions and feedback, and if consensus should be reached before a leader makes a decision. And there's a difference between collaborative leadership versus consensus. And I was recently listening to a podcast by Robert Kennedy Jr., and he was sharing this story about his uncle, President John F. Kennedy. And it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And if you're not familiar with the Cuban Missile Crisis, you can of course look it up and get the details and the story around it. But it's arguably the closest that the United States has ever come to full-out nuclear conflict with Soviet Russia. And the story goes that during a meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they took a vote on whether or not they should invade Cuba or not, because Russia put nuclear missiles in Cuba, which were capable of reaching many parts of the United States. And so they were taking a vote. Should the United States invade Cuba or not? And the vote comes in from the generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, 8-6. 8 wanted to invade, 6 said, let's not invade. And in that situation, John F. Kennedy gets up and he's like, okay, that's it. The 6s have it. Meaning, we're not going to invade. Even though the majority of the people did want to invade. The top generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they were telling him we should invade, but he went with what the minority was suggesting. And I think this is a really, really important story because it goes to show that when we think about collaborative leadership, it is important to get other people's opinions and to get their perspectives and to hear their ideas. But ultimately, as a leader, the decision starts and stops with you. And it's not required to have consensus around a decision. I think to be a good leader, again, you should get people's feedback and hear their opinions and suggestions, but ultimately the decision comes down to you. And you don't need everybody to agree. And if you wait for everybody to agree, you're going to find that it's going to take you a very, very long time to make any kind of decision. So whether we are looking at COVID policy, whether you're looking at protests that are happening all over the world right now, whether you're looking at acquiring a specific organization, whether you're looking to divest something, move the company in a new strategic direction, consensus is not required for you as a leader, and it should not be expected. It should not even be sought. Now, of course, if you happen to get consensus, great. But it shouldn't be the thing that you seek before you make a decision. So again, there's a big difference here between collaborative leadership versus consensus. And not everybody needs to agree with you, but everybody does need to respect the decision that you make and to support the decision that you as a leader are going to put into practice. So that's my stance and what I believe is really relevant when we talk about this. So again, very quick recap. Get other people's opinions and their perspectives, but you don't need everybody to agree on the decision before you as a leader make it, because ultimately that decision has to start and stop with you. So that's what I wanted to talk about today in this episode of the 5-Minute Leader. Hopefully it'll give you something to think about for this week. And hopefully it'll also give you some action steps that you can take. And if you're a current aspiring leader, go talk to your team, get perspectives, get ideas, get feedback, but ultimately remember the decision is going to come down to you. So I hope you're having a wonderful week wherever in the world you are. I'll see you soon.